Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my opinion on the very best manual folding and automatic EDC knives of 2024. This list has changed dramatically since I did it mid-year, as expected. That's what usually happens. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Instead of doing like the top 10 or whatever, I'm going to do best by category, and I'll list off the categories as we move along. Keep in mind, this will most likely not be exactly what you want it to be. There's just not enough room to have everything in one video. There were a lot of really amazing knives this year, but you know, if it were a top 50 or a top 100, sure. But one or more of your favorite things to release this year will likely not make it to the video. I will link everything down in the description so that you can pick up what is available if you want to. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. I uploaded over 800 videos in 2024, and it was almost all exclusively knife content. So I'm not saying that I am more qualified than anybody else to decide what the best of the best is, but I did handle a lot of stuff, right? So this is definitely not an easy video to create, but it's based on my real thoughts after handling all of this amazing stuff in 2024. Starting off here with the best budget knife category easily, it's the Vosteed Raccoon with the top liner lock. This is not the button lock variation. It's actually a button operated compression lock. And this is an obvious one for anybody who's watched my channel, or honestly, for anybody who's handled this knife. On this channel, anything that's under $75 is considered a budget knife. In 2024, there were roughly 17 billion budget knives that released, and a lot of them were really great, right? I could probably do a top 50 video on just budget knives for 2024. But the Vosteed Raccoon Top Liner Lock Edition is definitely the best of the best. This is hyper reliable, fantastic materials with 14C28N and micarta. Absolutely epic action, very good ergonomics, just all the way around incredibly reliable, very accommodating for right and left-handed people. Moving on here to the best mid-range knife. In this case, I'm kind of defining that as, you know, more than budget knife, but under $200. And in my opinion, it's an easy win for the Kershaw Bel Air. Number one, this is a knife made in the United States. That's automatically, it's going to make it really expensive, but oddly enough, Kershaw managed to combine materials like aluminum and MagnaCut, heat treat it properly, and actually execute the knife really, really well. Give it an ambidextrous locking system, ambidextrous pocket clip mounting position. It's just an overall really good EDC knife design. And it still comes in at like what, 150, 155? That's competitive even against the Chinese competition. How? It's amazing, right? I'm not saying that this is a profile that's never been done before, right? It's very similar to the Bug Out, obviously. But the fact that Kershaw can do this, make this knife, however boring you might label it, the fact that they can do this and release it for, they cannot be making much money on this. This is an absolutely amazing mid-range EDC knife in 2024. Moving on here to a category that I had to kind of invent. I mean, I invented all the categories here, but fun factor, right? Or wow factor, cool factor, whatever you want to call it. I just can't not include the Remet RT Swordfish, right? It's not the fact that it's a gravity knife. Like, it's cool that it's a gravity knife, but it's the way that it operates. It has this sort of OTF face switch looking, wait, it obviously is an OTF because the blade comes out the front, but I guess automatic OTF face switch. Most people picking this up, if they're familiar with knives in general, are going to think, I know that's an ugly inlay there, but let's focus on the knife itself. Most people picking this up would think, oh, this is a switchblade, right? No, you push up and these titanium wings open up, something from Alien, right? They open up and allow the blade to fall out into the open position. And it actually does a pretty good job of locking it. On top of that, the entire shell is milled from titanium and really nice texture patterns on there. And then we have a beautiful M390 blade that is heat treated really well too. This is a really awesome knife, and it is expensive. I think these come in at $220, $230, something like that. Not too focused on pricing today, really just the awards part of it. But yeah, the Swordfish is just really cool and really fun, right? It's not a knife that anybody needs. It's just fun. It has that fun factor, that X factor. and I had to include it on the list. So I made room, I invented a category for it, whatever you want to say, but there's not really anything else exactly like it. Moving on here to best automatic knife. And there are a few cool autos this year, but the one company who did something special, who did something different, and I know I just got this, but yeah, easy. It's an easy win for Microtech. This is crazy. The ZBT version of the Ultratech, the zero blade tolerance version of the Ultratech. Do you need your OTF to have absolutely zero blade play? No. Is it amazing that Microtech actually managed to do it? I didn't believe that they could do it. I said, no, Hawk is the only company that's really going to be able to. People tell me all the time, my Benchmade Infidel has zero blade play, or my Medford OTF has zero blade play, or my Microtech from the past that's not advertised to have zero blade play has zero play. And all of them are full of beans. You're all full of beans, right? SOG Pentagon zero blade play, number one, not only does it have a microscopic amount of blade play, but it's incredibly unreliable. And it also drags the blade against the frame. Not going to count that one either. The first company to actually do it, to give zero or to put zero blade play, have a locking system in an OTF, to have zero blade play outside of Hawk with the $1,800 deadlock is Microtech. This is amazing. Obviously, there's pros and cons to this. This system, if you're worried about the zero blade play feature wearing out over time, internally it can apparently be adjusted or tuned back to zero blade play, which is really, really neat. I cannot believe that they did this, and at less than a quarter the price of the Hawk deadlock. Now, obviously, this isn't as refined and polished as a custom Hawk deadlock. I own two of them. They're really, really nice. If you're going to spend the money on them, obviously you're paying for more than just the mechanism. But man, to be able to get this on a knife that you're paying about $370, $375, somewhere in there, maybe $380, very impressive. Very, very impressive. Easily the best auto of 2024. Moving on here, the absolute most impressive non-US made production knife. Sounds like an oddly specific category. Kind of not, right? It's going to go to the Viator. Oh my goodness. Listen, Chinese production companies have flexed so hard over the last couple of years, and we still standing, a good head and shoulders above so many companies. They are so capable. And to my surprise, they collaborate this year with Dalibor Bergam to create an integral, a beautiful, absolutely stunning integral, right? So I'm thinking, okay, cool, like that's going to cost a crazy amount of money. No, I think the base price of these came in somewhere between $360 and $380, which is hyper impressive. You may not care about the integral nature, which by the way means that the entire frame is milled from a single block of titanium. You may not care, right? You may not even be able to identify a benefit for a knife frame to be integral. And the truth is that there's not really one. You have less hardware, right? Maintenance is a little easier. You're not losing part. Great. It's definitely just cool factor, and it's for companies to flex their ability to machine things like this and still have all the tolerances be perfect. That's what they're doing here for sure. And if you look at the guy's work behind the design, he also likes to flex his ability to create amazing objects. Not just knife, right? Creating knife is not really all that special. To create something that's wild and spectacular and ultra precision, right? Yeah, that's spectacular. And we, a company who's known for being consistently spectacular, created something extra spectacular and put a good price tag on it when you consider the fact that it is an integral. This is one of the most competitive integrals I have ever seen on the market. Make this exact knife in the USA and it's going to cost substantially more. In fact, I've got a USA integral on this list and it's incredibly impressive, and it's amazing they got it down to what they did. But it costs nearly double what this knife costs. So moving on here, how about the best US made knife? I get really excited about amazing USA made knives. It's very expensive to create a knife here, right? And they're not always spectacular, but the Machine-Wise Sonora absolutely is. This is a hyper precision, contoured, textured titanium integral, right? This one has a Magna Cut blade. A lot of people look at the edge here and think that that's a goof up. No, they widen out that cutting bevel on both sides on purpose. This is a Gen 1. The Gen 2s and beyond were even more impressive. The most impressive part of this, to me, is the fact that this is legitimately an integral. USA made small batch. This is essentially like, you could call this ultra high-end small batch production, or you could call it mid-tech or semi-custom, whatever you want to call it, right? These knives are unbelievably expensive, right? If you're looking at like Brown Knives, your Oz Machine Company, your Koenig knives, your Holt knives, right? All of them more expensive than this. None of them integral. So should we be celebrating machine-wise? Even if this is not for you? Yes! This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. This is the most impressive small batch US made knife of 2024. Machine-wise is a company that I will be paying attention to for sure. Moving on here, this next one is not really a knife, but I do want to talk about the company doing the best aftermarket parts in its original goat. Like, I don't know how many other like companies or, you know, people doing this kind of stuff I could have included. There's a lot of really cool people out there doing some really, really fun stuff, but Original Goat is so like hyper involved and hyper woven into the community. They are making scales for all of our favorite knives, and they're making incredibly precision and incredibly cool looking scales, right? And they're doing it here in the USA and charging reasonable prices. Now, they don't have, you know, an infinite number of this stuff. They're not making things in China, so they can't have these things stacked on shelves in the hundreds or in the thousands, right? So sometimes availability is a problem, but that's just going to come with, you know, a company like Original Goat. But I'm using the stitch here because these gun stock scales that they made out of aluminum for the stitch are just wild, man. They're so awesome. They're making this stuff for, like I said, like every absolutely amazing knife that released over the last couple of years, and everybody is just super excited. If you own a knife with Original Goat scales, you're probably really enjoying it. The next category is also not any specific knife, but I did want to name who I thought was the best overall knife company throughout 2024. And honestly, I feel like maybe it's been longer than that, but I know a lot of you are saying this along with me, and I agree with you. It's Kunwu. Kunwu is doing essentially everything correct.
Well, Dick, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
But Kunwu is creating absolutely ridiculously high-quality knives. This is we're showcasing Kunwu in the form of the S-Tau 2, which was wildly impressive. Contour, texture, titanium. This one's full DLC, Timascus pivot colors on both sides. We have ambidextrous mounting positions for the pocket clip. Their detent is spectacular. Their action is spectacular, right? They're one of the few companies actually doing a satin DLC, a true DLC on their blades. They're also working with blade materials that are not super common. Right, we see Elmax, and they have Vanax, which I love. It's one of my favorite steels ever. Very, very similar to Magna Cut, if you didn't know that. We're also working with steels like PM60 and S390 and Vancron, which sounds like the antagonist of a Transformers movie.
No.
I don't even know. It's just crazy. On top of that, they're heat treating these steels very, very well. Kunwu is doing everything that they can to provide quality products, competitively priced quality products to their customers. They're creating knives that work for EDC, but are also fun for the collector and enthusiast, right? They're also pretty good about warranty stuff and getting back with people who are having issues or need parts or whatever. It's just all of the things that you should be doing as a knife company in 2024. Kunwu's doing it. Let's move on here and talk about most innovative. Gosh, who could that be? Who could possibly be the most innovative of 2024? Yeah, it's Brian Winters, Winter Blade Co. This crazy guy, this crazy guy who has implemented in such a fascinating and amazing way magnets into not all but some of his knives, has found a way to get these into the hands of people, right? He was a custom U.S. knife maker, and the demand for his products went through the roof, and the only way to get this stuff into the hands of everybody who wanted one was to work with Chinese OEMs who could create what he was trying to bring to the table. Ended up being Bestech and actually Kunwu for at least one of them. I can't remember. But anyways, this mad scientist, this wizard, released not one, but 3 designs this year. We have the Winter Blade Co. Factor 8 or the Factor XL with the quad magnetic detent system that is completely and totally customizable and adjustable via the flip-flopping or adding or subtracting of magnets made specifically for the knife. What? That's mind-blowing. Then we have technically the first magnetic switchblade. It's technically not a switchblade, right? This is the M-Fire. This was the one made by Kunwu. You pull down there and magnets actually throw. The blade is technically a magnetic assisted knife. I don't count I think it was the Mirror, the Mirage, right? I consider this to be a different knife. Then we have the Veyron, which is exceptionally interesting. Not a knife that utilizes magnets, but it's a combination, like I guess a bar, kind of the way that a bar lock works, kind of. We have this big piece of steel that slides into place behind what would be the tang of the blade, but it is able to be manipulated on the back like a super lock or like a shark lock, and then also via these tabs right here, like an axis lock, except it does not utilize omega springs. Very, very strong and very, very reliable. There's a back spring back here, but incredibly cool. This guy has no shortage of bombshell ideas. You can just basically just tossing out award-winning knives left and right. Far and away, most innovative. There's no one who comes anywhere close. And the guy can do this multiple times a year. It's insane. Moving on here, we have to talk about the best overall value knife of 2024. The best dollar for dollar, not specifically mid-range, high-end, or budget, just what was the best overall value of 2024, the Max Ace Neptune. So I'm showing the PEI version one here. A lot of people are like, I don't like the Ultim, right? So then the aluminum one, which did actually come back. There was a batch 2 or even a batch 3. I'll show a video up on screen. This $108 OTF, it doesn't have zero blade play like the $375 ZBT version of the Ultratech. But this is spectacular. I mean, the firing power, the overall quality of this thing, it's made in China, but usually the OTFs that are at this price point are hot trash, right? You have a couple of semi-reliable this or that. They have usually poor or subpar fit and finish. You have the Lightning OTF, which is fine. If you only want to spend $25, it's fine. But if we're going to talk about overall fit and finish, reliability, firing power, and just the feeling of quality, the Neptune is a god in this territory. Honestly, it makes a lot of high-end OTFs look kind of poopy, if I'm going to be honest. The only issue with the Neptune, the first one, the aluminum one, had a firing switch that was a little thin, and it took quite a bit of effort to fire that thing. It needed a fatter switch. They kind of updated it with this one, giving it a fatter switch and an overall fatter frame. They just released it in a variation that was a little weird, right? The Kroger brand Ultim and the two-tone blade, fine, but just really, really cool all the way around, whichever version you got. This is wildly impressive. The Max Ace Neptune, for sure. Best value of 2024. Let's do best overall EDC in terms of, like, when I'm saying, like, the knife I enjoyed carrying the most. The knife that I think is honestly the best overall EDC or everyday carry knife. The best choice for the widest variety of people, and it has to be the new Demco Shark Cub. It just seems like, what could they have changed from the Demco AD 20.5 to make this thing so much more spectacular? I mean, the 20.5 came out in what? 2021, 2022, something like that? I don't know. The Shark Cub fixes all of the weird, quirky issues with the 20.5, including mainly just getting rid of the stupid lock-in hook on the back end. It's got an improved forward choil area. It's just as ergonomic as the 20.5, given that the back end is open. It has an opening hole that's a lot more accommodating when it comes to the human hand. It's just easier to manipulate in general. They have blade shapes that I think are kind of the same, but a little bit better. Essentially, your cutting edge is so incredibly similar. I've actually got a 20.5 here. There's just the amount that has changed between the two in terms of cutting edge is trivial. You have essentially the exact same ergonomic room, considering the last bit of the knife is just not comfortable for your hand. They've reduced the overall size of it. I think they've also got a better price on it. You have budget versions of the knife, which are fine. A lot of people would wonder like why I didn't do best mid-range for the Shark Cub. It's because the lowest priced version of this knife isn't really spectacular in terms of materials, but it's still a good option for people wanting the Shark Cub and they don't want to buy the more expensive one. But if you do want to get the more expensive ones, they have titanium versions in 20CV. They've got this shadow version. I think this is the best version. The dark shadow whatever versus the DLC version in 20CV with the slicer grind and the artillery aluminum scales. This is amazing. Absolutely incredible. This is hyper compact, ridiculously strong with the Shark Lock, unbelievably durable, ambidextrous, so easy to manipulate. It's essentially a perfect EDC knife, right? Far and away my favorite thing to actually carry, like in terms of just pure utility. My favorite EDC knife of 2024, definitely the Shark Cub. So what could be the knife in the final category? What is the final category? It's Knife of the Year. What is Knife of the Year, right? The best of the best. And exactly how are you calculating that, Metal Complex? I'm not going to give you the weeds of it. I'm just going to tell you what I think is the best. What's my favorite? The thing that gives me the most... Yeah, what is the thing that gets the light bulbs going and gets the hairs on my arms standing up and gives me all the good feelies?
This is great.
That's the most scientific way that I can put it. Well, it can be none other than my own knife, the Metal Complex and Kunwu Excalibur.
What? Are you kidding?
Oh, no.
Okay, wait.
I'm kidding. Can you imagine? In all seriousness, though, the very best knife of 2024 has to be the Winterblade Cofactor 8. I know a lot of you guys expected me to go with the Veyron, and I really wanted to. But it was so cool, that he combined all of these systems that are obviously very popular in 2024. And this is no doubt an absolutely amazing knife. And I think would have done fine as a knife of the year. I think we all knew that on this channel, at least, it was going to be a Winterblade Co knife. But the fact that he took the Factor, made it bigger, because a lot of people wanted it, right? If you don't like big knives, well, sorry, right? But it's the quad magnet detent system that is adjustable. You already have a knife that doesn't look like anything else on the market. Not really, right? If you're like, I've seen plenty of knives that have blades that look like trapezoids. That's obviously not what I'm talking about, right? This knife doesn't really look like or operate like anything else that we've ever seen outside of the original Factor, which was obviously created by Brian Winters, right? We have the magnetic locking system. The disengagement is magnetic. Not a crossbar lock, not Omega Springs. The deployment itself is back here, which is wild, but you can also use this. Now, this is all systems that are similar to the Factor. The big change was the quad magnet detent system, which I showcased in my review of this knife. It looks like a little battery pack, kind of. It's just got little disc-shaped magnets that can be flipped over. The polarity can be altered to change the way that the knife deploys, which is so cool and so different, right? I know. Metal shavings can get in your knife. It's not for me. I work around a lot of metal shavings. Okay, that's fine. It's still amazing. This is still absolutely amazing, except for the goofy guys that always have to bring up the metal shavings. Yeah, magnets attract metal shavings. They do. But if we're just focusing on elements that are extremely cool and unique and different and implemented properly, built properly, right? It's all of this. And at the same time, the knife is wonderfully utilitarian. It has the cool factor. It's got the collector factor. It's made with premium materials. It has elements that do not exist anywhere else. This is why I do what I do. This is the type of knife that just, man, I love the fact that my job is this, because I get to dig through everything that comes, or a lot of the stuff that comes out year by year, to find the absolute most amazing stuff that the knife world has to offer. And this was truly a gem of gems. This was king of kings for sure. It's one of the most impressive production folding knives I've ever seen. Yeah, the Factor 8 is wildly impressive. And the crazy thing is this is just the tip of the iceberg when we're talking about stuff that Brian Winters is creating. We're just starting to scratch the surface. Thanos only has 1 or 2 of the Infinity Stones, guys. Just wait until he fills that gauntlet out. I promise you it's going to be wild. That's a weird analogy. He's not going to erase half the population. I'm saying he's going to release really amazing knives. Anyways, I hope this was a semi-satisfying list. Anybody who creates a list like this is essentially asking to anger the entire knife community. I don't make this list to give you guys the answers that you want or showcase the knives that you want me to showcase. I'm giving you my honest opinion. So if there was something that you wanted me to put on this list that you think I'm an idiot for not including, sorry. This is just my opinion. You can have any opinion you want, right? But I'd like to know either way what knives you would have put on this list for 2024. It's still fun. Right? I just asked to keep the conversation civil. But that's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Like I said, I'll link everything I can down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.